Mm. Mm. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. My name's Jaleesa if you're new here, and today I'm going to be showing you all how to brew a pumpkin spice ale. So if you're someone like myself who loves everything pumpkin during the fall time, but you feel like people are overcharging you based on this pumpkin craze, I got you covered on how to make your own pumpkin spice beer from your home. So let's go ahead and jump right into it, y'all. Before I could get to the good stuff and to start brewing, of course, you know, I had to sanitize my equipment because that's the most important part of brewing beer. And if you've all been with me before, you know I use Star San to sanitize all of my equipment, and I sanitize my equipment the day before I brew. This is all of the equipment I'll be using during this brewing process, and all of the description and links can be found in the description box. Now, what is a pumpkin beer without pumpkin? This particular beer, it did require me to do quite a bit of prep work. A part of that was chopping and prepping all of my pumpkins, and I did do this a couple of days before I brewed in order to just, again, make my brew day process more efficient so that I can get on the stove and get at it. These are all my main brewing ingredients I'll be using, and what's pumpkin spice beer without the spices? These are all the add-ons that I'll be adding to my beer. Now, to kick off this brew day, I started off by prepping my pumpkins. I went ahead and started boiling a pot of water in order to get that hot. I'm still one of those type of people that believe salt makes the water boil faster, so I did add salt. Once I got my boil going, I went ahead and put my pumpkins in the pot. I made sure all of my pumpkins were submerged before I let it sit and do its thing. While my pumpkins were boiling, I went ahead and started warming up my malt extract because it had been in the refrigerator. So after about 10 to 15 minutes, I went back and checked on my pumpkins, and as you can see, they were nice and soft. So this was an indicator for me to go ahead and pull them off of the eye and start to blend them. And because I had quite a bit of pumpkins, I did have to blend them in two separate batches. And so this is how much pumpkin I have after blending and boiling everything. I'm kind of freestyling this beer recipe. I did get inspiration from another recipe, but I am tweaking some things, and I already realized that I made a little boo-boo. Most pumpkin ale recipes, they roast the pumpkins, aka they put the pumpkins in the oven, and I was thinking of a pumpkin pie recipe, and I boiled these joints. I didn't remember that I was supposed to roast them until after all my pumpkins had already been boiled and I was putting the pumpkins in the blender. So that's why I said we freestyling. It's gonna be all right. Whether you slice it, you dice it, you boil it, you fry it, you roast it, it's still pumpkin. It's still going to be a pumpkin beer, and we're gonna make it happen. So let's go ahead and keep going and see how this turns out. So now that all of my prep is done, I can go ahead and really get to business and start making my wort. Once my pot was filled up, I went ahead and started warming up my water. And of course, throughout the wort development process, I'm going to maintain a 150 degrees temperature. Now, as my water is getting warm, I'm going to go ahead and prepare my steeping bag with my specialty grains so I can go ahead and get that nice color. So I steep my specialty grains for 30 minutes, and allowing the specialty grains to steep for 30 minutes helps to really bring out all of the grain colors, which will help to solidify the color of my beer. And I would recommend occasionally moving the steeping bag around while it's steeping. For 30 minutes, I'm going to pull my steeping bag out of the water, and I'm going to lightly wring it to get the lingering liquid out of that steeping bag. From there, I'm going to start pulling my pot off of the eye and begin adding the malt extract. Now, when I'm adding my malt extract, I'm going to pour it in my pot slowly while I'm stirring to make sure everything is getting mixed in there thoroughly. And before I put my pot back on the main eye, I'm going to make sure I stir it a little bit more just to make sure my malt extract is thoroughly mixed in before it goes back on the eye. So I'm going to boil my wort for an hour, but at the 60-minute mark, I'm going to add 2 sets of my hops as well as 1 of my container of pumpkins. And just like my malt extract, I'm going to make sure I get every last drop of pumpkin into my wort to make sure my beer has the most pumpkin flavors as I can possibly get in this beer. Now that all of my 60-minute additions to my wort have been added, I'm going to go ahead and mix everything up one last time, put my pot on, and let my beer chill for a little while. Now, after about 45 minutes and with 15 minutes remaining that my wort has to boil, I'm going to now start adding all of my spices to this beer, as well as the last container of pumpkin. All my final ingredients have been added to my wort. I'm going to make sure they're all mixed together and then let it chill for the last 15 minutes. While that's taking place, I'm going to go ahead and start prepping my sink for my ice bath. Now that 15 minutes have passed, I'm going to go ahead and add my last set of hops to my beer. And from this point, I'm going to start transitioning to my ice bath to cool my wort down. And I will say, y'all, this time cooling down this beer was a nightmare, a complete nightmare. So as my wort is cooling down, because today it's deciding to be a little pain in the butt, I wanted to show you all my new fermenter before we start filling this baby up. Here it is. So it is a 3-gallon fermenter. So it still allows me to keep my batches small, but it gives me a little bit more beer. Because I think I'm gonna keep doing this 3-gallon beer making. I mean, occasionally I may make 5 gallons, but it's just easier for me to maneuver and do what I need to do when I'm making small batches. Plus, my husband doesn't really drink that much anymore, so I'm really the main one in my household drinking the beer. So there's no sense of doing a 5-gallon batch. And I don't have anyone to help me drink the beer. Plus, I'm still in a 1 refrigerator household. You know, I know a lot of beer makers, they have like 2 or 3 refrigerators. I still have my 1. So until I either get more people to drink my beer or get more refrigerators in my house, I'm gonna stick to small batches. After waiting for my beer to cool down, I just decided to go ahead and siphon the beer, although it wasn't at the ideal temperature of 65 to 78 degrees. I was just like, F it, I'm going to transfer the beer. And here I am aggregating the beer. This is the only time in the beer making process I will do aggregation. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but y'all know what I mean. So, after every brew session, since I've started back brewing beer, I'm learning something. And during this one, I have learned that I need to get a bigger bag of ice, and I need to make ice like a day or 2 before I start brewing, because my beer is taking forever to cool down. And I bought like a 10-pound bag of ice when I probably should have bought like a 20-pound and made ice like 2 days before. I've been having to wait and wait for my beer to cool down. And so I wouldn't too much be concerned about it. And I just say, you know what, I'm just gonna pitch the yeast and kind of see what happens. But then I realized that there's a date on my yeast. says June 12th, 2020. 3 months ago. So I'm like, I think my yeast is good. Like, I don't think that it's not gonna do what it needs to do. But I'm like, being that this is 3 months ago and I'm not sure, I'm like, I probably need to get my wort down to that 65, 75 temperature just to be safe. But I got things to do. So I'm about at like 80 degrees. So I'm just gonna say F it and make it happen, make it do what it do. This doesn't necessarily say expired, but when I see dates on things, I just assume it's the expiration date. So I'm about to pitch this bad boy, we're about to store it, and then we're gonna wait 3 weeks and see what happens. So for this yeast, you do have to get it a little activated, y'all, to make sure it does its thing. I did do some research off camera and I realized that the date on the yeast packet is not an expiration date, but it's the date that the yeast was manufactured, created, whatever the correct terminology is. And I have 3 months following that date on the package to use it. So this yeast was in good shape. And as you'll see, as you continue watching the video, it did what it needed to do, y'all. I ferment my beers for 3 weeks, so this beer doesn't require any other hops or additions throughout this process, so it's just gonna chill in here for the next 3 weeks. Now, if you have not watched my last brew day video, as I stated earlier, I will link that below. But if you have, then you know there was a little surprise that happened when I first put my beer in the fermentation stage. God forbid that happens, because the airlock on this fermenter is not nearly as small as the last one. So the little workaround I had to do to mitigate that situation, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do that on this one. So let's pray that that doesn't happen. Let's sit back and watch and see. All right, y'all, so this is the morning after, and the yeast is yeasting. It's doing what it needs to do. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little concerned because prior to going to bed, I really didn't see much activity, but I looked a little closer and I saw some small bubbles. And this morning it was bubbling up a little bit, and now we have a very small minor little blow up. Again, if you saw my last video, then you know this is a fart in the wind compared to what I had to deal with the last time I brewed beer. So I'm not too concerned about it. Probably just gonna wipe it up and clean it up, and then just keep an eye on it. So now that my beer has finished its 3-week fermentation process, I'm going to start bottling my beer. I just wanted to give you all a nice shot of what my beer looks like while it's still in the fermenter. Now for the bottling process, I did use the same sugar tablets I used in my IPA video. I use 3 tablets per bottle. For my bottles, I sanitize all my bottles. If I go buy beer from the store, I will keep them, remove the stickers, and then sanitize them. I got that trick from a experienced brewer, and it's worked well for me. It helps to save money, and of course, who doesn't like to drink beer and then make beer? So that's how I accumulate my bottles. But again, the biggest thing is sanitizing. So not only sanitizing your bottles, but also sanitizing your bottle cap. Anything that touches the beer needs to be sanitized. All right, so I am done bottling, and I have counted 21 bottles of beer. So you all know the deal. 2 weeks in a cool, dark place, and then we can enjoy the beer. So y'all, I'm sorry. This is my second beer video, and I cannot get a gravity reading for y'all. I did it in the beginning, and when I was bottling my beer, I didn't get a large enough sample. This cylinder is super large, so I didn't get enough. So we're just gonna roll with the punches, and whatever alcohol level we get, we get. It's tasting day, y'all. I finally get to taste my pumpkin beer today. It has been a month and 1 week since I had my initial brew day, so now I am actually able to taste my beer. So of course I'm going to give you all a view of the beer. Has that nice amber color that I was hoping and expecting for once I was brewing. So just off of initial smells, I'm definitely picking up the pumpkin, as well as some of those spices like my cinnamon and my nutmeg. So that's a good start. So let's go ahead and let me taste. Cheers. So as I'm drinking this, I initially thought that it had like a coffee taste to it, and I was kind of like, where did that come from? Because I didn't put any coffee, anything in it. But towards the end, there's this subtle like heat to it. I wouldn't say heat, but maybe a subtle bitterness, a subtle heat, for lack of a better word. It's just something, there's like a little aftertaste to it. And I had to go back and look like, what is triggering that? And I'm thinking it may be a combination of the cloves that I've used, the allspice, and the ginger, because I forgot that I put ginger powder in this beer. And I think just the three of those combinations together may be creating that subtle spice. It's not like a spiciness if you were putting some type of pepper or heat on something, but it's just like a small little warmth to it. If you've ever had ginger, like fresh raw ginger, it's not spicy, it's not hot, but it definitely does do something to you. I hope I'm explaining this to where everyone realizes it, but yes, I'm definitely tasting those ginger, allspice, and clove spices in it. Initially, it's that pumpkin, cinnamon, nutmeg, and then kind of the aftertaste is kind of that ginger and all those other intense spices. Something I will say I wish I would have done with this beer was maybe either added real vanilla to it, like the actual spice vanilla, or added more extract. For this recipe, I use vanilla extract, and so I wish I could taste that vanilla a little bit more. But overall, I am satisfied with this beer. I definitely think it is a good holiday beer, and I'm excited to kind of share it with my family and friends to get, their thoughts on it and to see what others are able to pick up from this beer in regards to the spices and things that I included. Y'all, thank you so much for tuning in and watching this video. Please make sure you like this video if you enjoyed it. You liking this video helps small channels like mine grow. Also, make sure you subscribe to my channel so you are up to date on the latest and greatest content, y'all. I have one last beer that I am brewing before the end of the year, and then I'm coming back in the new year with more beer content. So please make sure you comment below some things you'd like to see me brew. Or if you are super new, super green to brewing beer and you'd like me to break down some of the common ingredients and terms, also make sure you comment below and just let me know what you're interested in. Now, until my holiday beer video comes, go ahead and check out the video below where I'm brewing a IPA. And of course, I'm going to catch you all there.